Private Dajan returned to his small room on the frontier station Arcturus 9 with slow steps, feeling the weight of another long patrol. The metal floor under his boots still hummed with the low vibration of the station's engines, a sound he had grown used to during his service. He wanted nothing more than to take off his gear, close his eyes, and let the quiet swallow him for a few minutes. Life on the frontier was always tense, always waiting for something to go wrong. Today, however, he thought he might get a moment of peace. When the door slid open, the room lights automatically brightened. His room was simple: a narrow bed, a small desk with a screen, a metal locker, and a window showing the distant glow of a nearby nebula. Everything was exactly the same as he had left it. Or so he thought. Dajan stepped inside, took off his utility pack, and placed it on the desk. As he turned toward his bed, something in the shadow near the wall shifted. He froze. The movement had been small, but it was definitely there. His training kicked in. He reached for the small stun baton on his belt and quietly moved toward the corner. The station did not normally get intruders. Security was tight. Any unknown presence meant trouble. "Come out," he said in a calm voice. Slowly. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, out of the shadow, a figure stepped forward. It was a woman. Not human. Not from any species he had seen up close. Her skin had a pale silver tone that softly reflected the room lights. Her hair, long and dark, almost shimmered as if touched by starlight. Her eyes were the most striking, wide, bright, and holding a hint of fear. But they were gentle too. She raised her hand slightly to show she was not a threat. "I am not here to harm you," she said, her voice soft and almost musical. Dajan kept the stun baton raised. "Who are you? How did you get in my room?" The woman looked around as if checking that no one else was present. She seemed nervous, but not aggressive. "My name is Rena," she said. I came here by mistake. I did not plan to enter your room. I was trying to escape." Dajan frowned. "Escape from what?" Rena hesitated. Her eyes lowered, and she touched her hands together as if unsure how much to say. "There were people following me," she whispered. "I do not know who they were, but they did not feel safe. I found an open maintenance corridor, and somehow I ended up here." Dajan's grip on the baton softened slightly. If she were a spy, she would have come armed. If she were an enemy, she would not look so afraid. Still, protocol was strict. "You can't stay here," he said. "This is a military zone. If someone finds you—" "Please," Rena said suddenly, taking a small step forward. "Do not make me go out there again. They are still searching. I can feel it." Her voice shook. Her eyes held fear deeper than simple worry. She seemed like someone who had been running for a long time. Dajan exhaled slowly. He lowered the baton, but did not turn it off. "Sit on the bed," he said, "and talk. I need to understand this." Rena nodded and sat carefully, as if unsure if she was allowed to breathe normally. Dajan pulled over the small chair from the desk and sat facing her. "Start from the beginning," he said. Rena looked at her hands for a long moment, then met his eyes. "I come from a world far from here," she said. "My people do not often travel beyond our system, but I joined an exploration group. We were studying dark matter flows. Something went wrong. We detected disturbances, dangerous ones. And then, a few nights ago, I felt someone watching me. I do not know who they were, but they were not part of our mission. They followed me through the station. When I tried to report it, the systems malfunctioned. Even my communicator stopped working." "You're saying someone is targeting you specifically?" Dajan asked. Rena nodded. "I do not know why, but I can sense things most beings cannot. I can feel dark matter changes like a shift in the wind. Maybe they want that. Maybe they fear it. Daejin leaned back, processing her words. A person who could sense dark matter disturbances? That was rare, valuable, and dangerous if the wrong people wanted her. Why come here? He asked, why my room? Rena shook her head gently. I did not choose it. I ran through the dark corridor. There was a broken panel. I pushed it, and I fell inside. When I opened the next door, I was here. Daejin glanced at the vent panel above his locker. Yes, it looked slightly out of place. Not enough for casual notice, but enough for someone desperate to slip through. He sighed. This was becoming complicated. You still can't stay, he said firmly. If security finds you, both of us will be questioned. I could lose my position. Rena's expression softened into something he didn't expect, sadness mixed with calm acceptance. I understand, she whispered. If you wish me to go now, I will. I do not want to bring trouble to you. She stood slowly, her hands at her sides. Something about her quiet acceptance made Daejin pause. She was not pleading anymore. She simply accepted whatever fate waited outside. Wait, he said before she reached the door. She stopped and turned to him. Her eyes reflected a soft glow from the overhead lights. You said people were following you, Daejin said. If they're still close, sending you out there could be dangerous. Rena said nothing. She only watched him, waiting. Daejin put down the stun baton. Stay. For now, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. But you have to stay quiet. No one can know you're here. Rena's expression changed instantly, not to excitement, but to relief, a deep, peaceful relief that softened her shoulders. Thank you, she said softly. I will not be a burden. Daejin shook his head. Just tell me you're not lying about any of this. I have no reason to lie, Rena said. I only wish to be safe. He believed her. He wasn't sure why, but he did. Rena moved back to the bed and sat with careful posture, as if afraid to disturb anything. Daejin placed his gear in the locker and sat at the desk, pretending to check reports while quietly watching her reflection in the screen. She looked around the room, with curiosity at the window showing the nebula, at the metal walls, at the neatly folded blanket on the bed. You live in such a small space, she said softly. Daejin gave a small shrug. It's the military. You get used to it. Rena tilted her head. It feels safe. Maybe because it belongs to you. Daejin blinked, unsure how to reply. For several minutes, the room was quiet except for the gentle hum of the engines. The silence was strangely comfortable. Finally, Rena spoke again. I know I came here by accident, she said. But now that I am here, I do not want to leave. Not yet. Daejin sighed, but did not argue. Something inside him already knew that her arrival was the beginning of something much larger than an accidental intrusion. And somehow, he didn't mind that she was staying. Rena stayed in Daejin's small room through the night, sitting quietly on the edge of the bed while he tried to rest. He lay awake longer than usual, his mind filled with questions. He had let an extraterrestrial woman hide in his quarters, breaking several rules without thinking twice. He told himself it was only temporary, but even he knew that was not fully true. Something about Rena's presence felt different. Strange, yes, but not dangerous. The station lights dimmed for night cycle, and the room became softer and quieter. Rena sat with her legs drawn close, watching the view outside the window. The nebula glowed with slow waves of color, and its reflection shimmered faintly across her silver skin. You do not sleep? She asked without turning around. Daejin sighed and pulled an arm over his eyes. Not easily. Not when someone unexpected is sitting in my room. I can stay still, she offered. I do not need much rest. That's not the point, he muttered. This situation is unusual, Rena finally turned to look at him, her eyes calm. I know I'm causing trouble, but thank you for not sending me away. Daejin sat up slightly. I'm not doing this for thanks. I just don't want you to walk into danger. Tomorrow, we need to figure out a real solution. Rena nodded. Tomorrow, then. The next morning cycle came quickly. Daejin prepared for duty, slipping into his uniform while Rena watched quietly. She seemed fascinated by simple things, how he tied the belt, how he fixed the badge, how he folded his sleeves. What are you thinking about? He asked. You humans move with purpose, she said. Everything you do looks firm, strong. Daejin raised an eyebrow. We just call it getting ready for work. Rena tilted her head with a small smile. Then her expression became serious. Will you be safe today? She asked. Me? I should be asking you that. They shared a brief look before Daejin sighed. I have to go. You stay here. Do not open the door for anyone. Do not make noise. If someone checks the rooms, I will hide, she finished. I remember where the vent is. Good, and try not to touch anything. Rena nodded, though he suspected she would still explore the room the moment he left. Once Daejin stepped into the hallway and the door closed behind him, Rena let out a slow breath. The hum of the station felt louder outside the safety of his presence. She stood and walked to the window, touching the cool glass. For the first time since she arrived on the station, she did not feel hunted. She did not feel completely safe either, but Daejin's room carried a warmth she could not explain that hours past. Rena listened carefully to the sounds outside, the footsteps of soldiers, the distant announcements, the quiet clatter of machines. She moved around the room gently, curious but careful. She touched the edges of the books on Daejin's shelf. She smelled the faint scent of metal mixed with the clean soap from his uniform. She sat at his desk and tapped the screen once, startled when it brightened. She quickly turned it off and stepped away. Meanwhile, Daejin spent the morning trying to focus on his tasks. He trained with his unit, checked equipment, reviewed patrol logs, but part of his mind kept drifting back to his room. To her dot when lunchtime came, Hana approached him with narrowed eyes. You're acting strange, she said plainly. Daejin looked up from his tray. What are you talking about? You keep checking the time. You keep glancing down the hallway like you left something important behind. She leaned closer. What's going on? Nothing, Daejin said too quickly. Liar, Hana said. You look like someone hiding a secret. Daejin forced himself to relax. It's nothing serious. Just tired. Hana studied him for a moment, then shrugged. Fine, but if something is happening, you know you can tell me. Yeah, Daejin said softly. I know. But he could not tell her. Not yet. After his shift ended, he returned to his room as calmly as he could. The door slid open, and he stepped inside. Rena was sitting cross-legged on the bed, her hair glowing softly under the evening lights. When she saw him, she smiled just a little. You are back. Yeah, Daejin said, exhaling in relief. You stayed quiet? I did not move much, she said. Your room feels peaceful. Daejin removed his jacket and sat in the chair, trying not to stare at her. Did anything happen while I was gone? Rena lowered her gaze. Yes, people passed by in the hallway many times. I listened. Some voices I recognized from earlier. One sounded like the ones who followed me before. Daejin stiffened. You're sure? She nodded. I can sense them. Not in a normal way. Their presence feels heavy, wrong, like dark matter currents disturbed by a strong force. Daejin rubbed his face. This is getting worse. If someone dangerous is on this station, we need to tell someone. Rena shook her head immediately. No. If you report me, They will find me before the officers do. They are watching the systems. They will track the report. Then you will be in danger too. Daejin looked at her, surprised by the fear in her voice. You think they're monitoring everything? Rena nodded. Yes, that is why I came to you. I felt no dark disturbances near your room. It was the calmest place. He sat back, overwhelmed. Why me, though? You felt safe, she answered simply. The room fell quiet for a long moment. Neither of them knew what the next step should be. Rena finally broke the silence. If I am a burden, I can leave when the next cycle starts. I do not want to trap you in my problem. Daejin shook his head. No, it's too dangerous. And it's not your fault. Rena looked at him with soft, grateful eyes. You are kind, Daejin. I'm a soldier, he corrected. We help people when we can. She smiled gently. Then I am glad I found a soldier like you. Later, while Daejin ate a small dinner, Rena watched him quietly. You humans eat fast, she observed. We eat because we have to. Not everything is interesting. What do you find interesting? She asked. Daejin paused. He had never been asked that by someone outside his unit. I don't know. Maybe flying ships, training, winning, stuff like that. Rena blinked. You sound like someone who has been fighting for a long time. That's what soldiers do. Rena looked down at her hands. My people do not fight often. We move with the universe. We avoid conflict. Maybe that is why I was easy to follow. Daejin shook his head. That's not your fault either. Someone is targeting you, and we need to figure out why. Rena looked up, her voice soft. I do not want you to be pulled into my danger. You already pulled me in, Daejin said with a small and tired laugh. At this point, I'm not leaving you alone. Rena watched him with quiet emotion. The evening grew slower. Rena moved closer to the window again, watching the nebula as it shifted in bright colors. It is beautiful, she said. But lonely, too. You get used to it, Daejin said. I hope I never do. She whispered Dot as the night cycle returned. Daejin prepared his bed. Rena stayed seated near him. The hum of the engines felt softer tonight. Without looking at him, Rena spoke in a low voice. I know I said I did not want to leave. But now I have another reason. I feel safe with you, Daejin. More than anywhere else on this station. Daejin swallowed. Unsure how to respond, he did not say it out loud. But he felt something too. Whatever this was accidental, strange, impossible, it was becoming something he could no longer ignore. The next morning cycle arrived with a low alarm humming through Arcturus 9. It was not loud enough to signal danger, but strong enough to warn the crew that something was not normal. Daejin woke instantly, his training pulling him out of sleep the moment the sound touched his ears. Rena was already awake. She sat close to the window again, knees pulled in, eyes sharp and focused. Her silver skin reflected the dim lights. That sound, she whispered. It is not a normal system check. Something is wrong. Daejin sat up and rubbed his eyes. It's probably just a maintenance alert. But he already felt uneasy. He stood, grabbing his uniform jacket. Rena watched his movements with tense shoulders. You are leaving? She asked quietly. I have to. If the alarm means anything serious, everyone has to report. If I stay here, that will bring more suspicion. Rena lowered her gaze. I understand. Daejin paused, then stepped closer. You hide. Same as before. Do not come out unless you hear my voice. Promise me. Rena nodded. I promise. He waited one more moment, then left the room. The hallways were already filling with soldiers moving quickly toward the central briefing room. Daejin blended into the motion, trying to look calm. But his thoughts kept drifting back to Rena. He hated leaving her alone again, especially now that something on the station felt wrong. When he arrived at the briefing room, Hannah spotted him and waved him over. "Good, you're here." Something strange happened on the outer ring. Daejin forced a steady expression. "What kind of strange?" Hannah lowered her voice. "Unauthorized movement. Someone slipped through the outer hangars last night. The cameras were looped for 7 minutes. 7. That's not an accident." Daejin's stomach tightened. Rena had said someone was near. Did they catch the intruder? He asked. No. They vanished inside the station. Security thinks they have help from someone inside. Daejin nodded slowly. That actually made sense. Someone would need access to loops, codes, and blind spots. Whoever was hunting Rena was not acting alone. The commander arrived and began the briefing. A large screen displayed a map of the station. "We have a security breach," the commander said. "We believe there is a hidden hostile agent, possibly more than one, moving between the maintenance tunnels. All squads must stay alert. No one moves alone. Patrols will be doubled." Several soldiers whispered to one another. Daejin kept his face neutral, but inside, a cold worry grew. The enemy was already inside. After the meeting, Hannah caught his arm as they left the room. "Walk with me," she said. Daejin followed her down the hall. She narrowed her eyes at him. "You know something," she said quietly. "I can see it. You're hiding something." Daejin kept his voice steady. "I'm not hiding anything." "Yes, you are," Hannah insisted. "And I'm not trying to get you in trouble. But if something dangerous is happening, I need to know." Daejin hesitated. He trusted Hannah, but he also knew telling her might put Rena in greater danger. "I'm fine," he said at last. "Just tired." Hannah sighed and crossed her arms. "Fine. Don't talk. But I'm keeping an eye on you." He managed a weak smile. "I'd expect nothing less." When his shift finally ended, Daejin walked fast toward his quarters, trying not to look too eager. His pulse quickened the moment the door slid open. Rena was standing in the middle of the room, her eyes wide with worry. "You came back," she said softly. "Of course I did," Daejin replied. "Did anything happen while I was gone?" Rena nodded slowly. "Yes, I heard footsteps outside your door many times. But one moment felt different." Daejin stiffened. "Different how?" Rena closed her eyes, as if remembering the sensation. It felt heavy, like a dark wave passing by. Not loud, but strong. It touched the walls, like it was searching. "You're talking about your dark matter sense," Daejin said. "Yes, whoever is here. They are not ordinary. Their presence bends the energy around them." Daejin rubbed the back of his neck, frustration building. "We need to figure out who they are, why they want you." Rena sat on the bed, folding her legs beneath her. "I told you before. I can sense dark disturbances better than most. It is not a weapon, but some people believe it can be used as one. Or controlled. You think they want to use you?" "I do not know. But they do not want me safe." Daejin sat down across from her. "Then we're going to protect you." "I promised." Rena looked at him, her expression softening. "You have done more than I expected. More than anyone else would." They were silent for a moment. Then the room suddenly changed. A soft vibration ran through the floor, different from the normal engine hum. Sharper, colder. Rena shot to her feet. "That is them." Daejin stood too. "What? Where?" Rena pointed to the vent above the bed. "They are close. In the tunnels. Moving fast." Daejin grabbed his baton and switched it to active mode. "Stay behind me." Rena shook her head. "I can guide you. I can feel where they are heading." Daejin swallowed. "Rena, I can't bring you into danger." "You already are in danger," she said quietly. If they are here, they know I am here. They know you are helping me. That hit him harder than he expected. He stepped closer. Then we moved together. You stay close. Understood? Rena nodded. They moved quickly out of the room, keeping to the shadows of the hallway. Rena kept her eyes half closed, as if following an invisible trail. They are not far, she whispered. 2 of them. Heavy presence. Like a strong pull. Daejin tightened his grip on the baton. Anyone else sensing them? No, only me. They reached a small junction near the maintenance area. Rena stopped suddenly. Here, she said. They passed here minutes ago. They know the layout well. They are heading toward the central systems. Daejin cursed under his breath. If they reach the main systems, they could shut down power. Or worse. Rena placed her hand on the wall. We can still catch them, but we need help. Daejin hesitated, then tapped his communicator. Hannah. I need you in Maintenance Hall C now. There was a pause. You finally decided to tell me something? Hannah replied, Just get here, Daejin said. Minutes later, Hannah arrived, eyes sharp and suspicious. What is going on? Why are you? Her words stopped when she saw Rena. Hannah stared. Who is she? Daejin took a deep breath. Her name is Rena, and we need your help. Hannah blinked, stunned. You hid an alien girl in your room? Not important right now, Daejin said quickly. There are hostile agents on the station. She can sense them. Rena nodded politely. I am sorry for intruding, but it was not safe anywhere else. Hannah shook her head slowly, overwhelmed. Daejin, you're insane. But fine, tell me what we're doing. Rena pointed down the dim corridor. 2 hostile beings moved that way. We must stop them before they reach the core systems. Hannah looked at Daejin. You believe her? Daejin nodded. Yes. Hannah took out her tablet, checking the station map. Then we're going after them. But we do this smart. I lead. Daejin covers the rear. Rena stays between us. Rena agreed with a small nod. They moved together down the dark corridor, an improvised team walking toward. Danger none of them fully understood. Whatever waited ahead, it was clear now, Rena was no ordinary wanderer, and the threat was far greater than any of them expected. Daejin, Rena, and Hannah moved carefully down the dim corridor, each step slow and controlled. The air in the maintenance sector felt colder than usual, as if something had drained the warmth from the metal walls. Rena walked between them, her eyes half closed, her breathing steady as she focused on the strange energy only she could sense. They are close, she whispered. Not right ahead, but moving fast. They know someone has noticed them. Hannah tapped her fingers lightly against her weapon. Hostiles who can loop cameras and move through tunnels without a sound. And now they're sensing us too. Great. Daejin kept his baton ready, scanning every shadow. We can still stop them. Just stay focused. Rena's voice grew softer. The energy is getting stronger. They are heading toward the central systems. If they reach the core... She didn't finish, but the fear in her tone said everything. Hannah checked a small map on her tablet. There's a shortcut ahead. Tight space, but it will get us there before they do. They hurried into a narrow maintenance shaft, the ceiling so low that Daejin had to duck. Rena touched the walls from time to time, as if feeling vibrations that no one else could sense. The hum of machinery grew louder as they moved deeper. At the end of the shaft, Hannah held up a hand. Stop, listen. All 3 froze. There a faint echo of metal scraping. Heavy footfalls. Not human, Rena exhaled shakily. That is them, Daejin whispered. How many? 2. No, 3 now. Hannah clenched her jaw. They've grouped up. Means they're preparing for something big. The trio exited the shaft into a larger hallway lit by emergency blue lights. The atmosphere felt tense, as if the station itself sensed danger. They moved swiftly, taking cover behind crates and support beams as they advanced. Suddenly, Rena raised both hands. "Wait!" Daejin and Hannah stopped instantly. Rena pointed at a junction ahead. "The air there. It feels wrong. Heavy. Like they bent the dark currents to hide themselves." Hannah lifted her weapon. "Then they're right around that turn." Before they could move, a blast shook the walls. The floor trembled, and the lights flickered. Daejin grabbed Rena by the arm and pulled her behind cover. Explosion from the central system's direction. Hannah cursed. They already reached the outer door. The three of them ran. The hallway opened into a wide chamber filled with humming generators and glowing panels. Smoke drifted from a damaged section of the wall. Sparks rained from a broken power conduit dot, and they're standing in front of the main access core were the intruders. 3 tall figures in dark armor, their bodies wrapped in strange shimmering cloth that bent the light around them. Their helmets had no faceplates, only a smooth surface that reflected nothing. Even from a distance, Daejin felt an unnatural chill coming from them. Rena stepped back, eyes wide with fear. Their presence, it is pulling the dark matter around them. They are not like my people. They twist the energy, force it, break it. One of the armored figures turned its head slightly, as if noticing them. Hannah whispered, "Well, they found us." Daejin tightened his jaw. "We can't fight them directly. Not like this." Rena looked between them. "I can sense their movement. I can warn you before they strike." Hannah nodded. "Good, Daejin. You engage the left one. I'll cover the right. Stay alive." Before Daejin could answer, the first armored figure raised an arm. Dark energy gathered in its hand, swirling like smoke, trapped in a glass sphere. Rena gasped. "Move!" Hannah dove behind a generator just as the energy shot forward, hitting the wall with a loud crack. The metal dented inward, glowing hot from the impact. Daejin sprinted forward, sliding behind a pillar. He peeked around the corner and saw the nearest intruder advancing slowly. Hannah shouted, "They're trying to overload the core. If they rupture it, the entire station could go dark." Rena stepped forward, despite her fear. "I can stop them, but I need to connect with the energy here. The core hums with dark matter. I can use it." Daejin shook his head. "It's too dangerous." But Rena ignored him. She placed her hands against a large generator panel. A soft glow spread from her palms, the shadows around her shifting as if responding to an invisible wind. The intruders froze. One of them tilted its head as if confused. Daejin didn't waste the moment. He rushed the nearest one, baton charged. The armored figure swung an arm toward him, but Rena cried out, "Left!" Daejin shifted instantly, dodging the blow and driving his baton into the gap beneath the creature's arm. Sparks burst from the impact, and the intruder staggered. Hannah fired at the second figure, hitting a weak spot near its leg. The shot slowed it, but its armor absorbed most of the energy. The third intruder moved toward Rena, sensing her growing influence over the core. Daejin shouted, "Rena!" "Behind you!" Rena opened her eyes, glowing faintly with light from the generator. She raised her hand, and a wave of dark air pulsed outward. It wasn't a weapon, it was a distortion, a shift in energy that pushed the intruder back several steps. Hannah stared. How did she do that? Rena trembled. "I am using the station's flow, but I cannot hold it long." The intruders regrouped, moving with slow, threatening precision. Daejin stepped beside Rena, shielding her with his body. "Hannah, aim for the joints. They're weaker there." Hannah fired again, hitting the right intruder in the knee joint. The armor cracked, and the intruder fell to one knee. The left intruder recovered and swung at Daejin. He blocked the attack with his baton, sparks flying as metal clashed. The blow pushed him back, but he held his ground. Rena pressed her hands harder against the generator. The glow around her intensified, and the lights across the chamber flickered. A pulse of energy spread across the floor. The intruder staggered. Daejin saw his chance. He drove his baton upward into the intruder's neck joint. The armored figure froze, then collapsed with a heavy thud. Hana finished the second intruder with a precise shot. The third intruder, the one nearest the core, raised both arms. Gathering a dangerous amount of dark energy, Rena cried out, "No!" Her body glowed brighter, and a wave of force pushed outward, slamming the last intruder into the wall. The energy it gathered cracked apart, dissolving into the air. The intruder fell and did not rise. Silence filled the chamber. Daejin turned to Rena. Her hands slipped from the generator, and she collapsed forward. He caught her instantly. "Rena, are you okay?" She trembled in his arms, her skin dimmer than before. "I used too much, but the station is safe now." Hana approached, looking at both of them with shock. She saved the entire core. She saved all of us. Rena opened her eyes weakly. "I heard the dark matter calling. It answered when I reached for it." Daejin held her close. "You don't have to push yourself like that. You could have been hurt." Rena managed a faint smile. "I wanted to protect you. Both of you." Hana looked away, giving them a moment. "We should call this in. The commanders need to know what happened." Daejin nodded. "Yeah, but first." He lifted Rena into his arms. "We take her somewhere safe." Rena rested her head against his shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "Daejin, don't leave me." He held her tighter. "I won't." Rena stayed in the medical room for a long time. The battle was over, and the station was safe again. Many people were tired, injured, or confused, but they were alive. Daejin walked down the quiet hallway to check on her, and he felt a strange mix of relief and worry in his chest. He kept thinking about how she had pushed herself far beyond her limits. He kept seeing the moments she almost collapsed, the look in her eyes, and the way she tried to smile, even when she could barely stand. When he entered the room, Rena was sitting up in the bed. Her skin looked pale, and the strange patterns on her arms glowed very faintly. She blinked slowly when she saw him and tried to straighten herself, but he rushed forward and told her not to move too much. She gave a soft laugh and said she had heard that before. Daejin sat down beside her and told her that the station was safe now and that everyone was grateful. He told her that Hana was already back on duty, helping with repairs. Rena listened quietly, her eyes warm and soft. She said she was happy everyone survived, and she felt glad that her warnings and powers were useful. But she also said she had never used her abilities at that level before, and it frightened her. She did not know what could have happened. Daejin told her she was safe now, and the danger had passed. He said she did not have to worry about being hunted anymore. The attackers had been captured or chased away. The Alliance leaders were impressed, and they wanted to give her protection and a safe home. Rena looked down at her hands and touched the faint glowing marks. Thinking about the choices that were now open to her. Later that day, the Alliance diplomats arrived on the station. They were polite, calm, and respectful, and they came with an official request. They wanted to speak with Rena privately, but she asked Daejin to stay with her during the meeting. The diplomats said that Rena had become important to their efforts. Her abilities were rare and valuable, and she deserved to live in safety. They offered her her own quarters, high security, full comfort, and a peaceful future. Rena listened carefully. She understood what they meant, and she appreciated their kindness. She thanked them for their offer, and she said she needed time to think. The diplomats nodded and said she could take as long as she wanted. After they left, Dejin looked at her and wondered what she would choose. He told her he would support her no matter what she decided. Over the next few days, the station slowly returned to normal. Repairs finished, soldiers rotated shifts again, and the quiet hum of machines filled the hallways. People began to smile more. Some even waved at Rena when she passed by, grateful for her help. Hana visited often, bringing simple snacks and light conversation. She teased Dejin a little but also thanked Rena again and again. Rena felt calmer, but she was also thoughtful. She spent time walking through the observation deck, looking at the stars. She thought about the home she had left behind, the dangers she had faced, and the strange warmth she felt when she stayed near Dejin. She wondered why she felt it. She wondered why she felt safe with him in a way she had never felt anywhere else. One night, Dejin found her alone in the deck, sitting by the glass wall. She did not turn right away when he approached. She said she could sense the dark matter field settling again now that the attackers were gone. Everything around them felt calm and balanced. Dejin sat next to her and waited. Rena asked him quietly if he thought she should leave his room and live in the quarters. The diplomats offered. Dejin froze for a moment. He wanted her to stay, but he did not want to pressure her. He told her that she should choose what made her feel safe and comfortable. She asked him if he would visit her if she moved. He said of course he would. Rena looked at him then, really looked, with her silver eyes glowing softly. She asked if he wanted her to stay. Dejin's heart beat faster. He tried to answer calmly, but his voice came out soft and unsteady. He said yes. Yes, he wanted her to stay. Rena smiled, a gentle, warm smile that felt different from any she had shown before. She leaned her head lightly against his shoulder and said she already knew. She could feel his emotions because they were so strong and because he tried so hard to hide them. She said that was one of the first things she noticed about him. Dejin blushed and tried to look away, but Rena touched his hand and told him she felt the same. She said she wanted to stay not because she feared the outside world, but because she felt safe with him. She said she did not want to leave his room because it felt like a home she had never had. The next morning, she gave her answer to the diplomats. She said she accepted their protection, their support, and their welcome into the alliance. But she said she would not move into the quarters they prepared. She wanted to stay with Dejin. The diplomats hesitated at first, unsure how to react, but Dejin quickly stepped forward and said he would take responsibility. After a long pause, the diplomats agreed. Life changed after that. Rena stayed in Dejin's room, but now she stayed as someone who belonged there, not as someone hiding. She helped with sensors and defense systems whenever needed, and the entire station began to trust her. She learned human habits more easily now. She and Dejin walked together in the hallways, ate meals together, and talked late into the night about their different worlds. Hana teased them both often, but she was happy for them. She said the station was safer and more peaceful because of Rena, and she said Dejin seemed much more alive now. Other soldiers joked lightly, but they respected what Rena had done. Some even asked for training in how to detect unusual energies, though Rena told them gently that she could not teach her abilities. One evening, Dejin returned from patrol, tired but in a good mood. When he entered the room, he found Rena sitting on the bed, waiting with a soft smile. She said she had sensed he was close before he arrived. Dejin laughed and said he was getting used to that. Rena held out a small piece of crystal she had brought from her home world. She told him it represented connection and courage. She wanted him to have it. Dejin took it carefully. He said he would protect it and keep it with him always. Rena touched his hand and said quietly that she trusted him. She trusted him more than anyone, The station lights dimmed to night mode, and the room became quiet. Rena sat close to him, her silver eyes gentle and calm. Daijin rested his hand over hers. They talked softly, not about battles or danger or duty, but about simple things, warm things about the future, about small dreams, and about how strange and lucky their meeting had been. Neither of them knew what would happen next in the galaxy, but both knew one thing very clearly now. What started as an accident had become something they would not give up. Rena had entered his room by mistake, but now she stayed because it was where she wanted to be. And Daijin, who once lived only by duty, now lived with something deeper, something that gave him hope. They sat together in the quiet room, the universe stretching wide outside the window, and they felt, for the first time, that they had a place where they truly belonged.